Hi, I'm Meredith from Food at Heart, and I'm here today for COFIGHT-19 to do a special mindful tasting session with some lovely chocolate, especially as we've just come out of the Easter weekend, or we're still in it, we're on the Monday, so it's Easter Monday when I'm doing this, and hopefully you'll have a bit of chocolate around the house. Now, I always have chocolate around the house because what I do with my business is that I am a meditation teacher and I am also a chocolatier. So I spend a lot of my time working with chocolate, tasting chocolate, and really using chocolate as a tool to bring to life principles of mindfulness and meditation, and also really just exploring how wonderful chocolate is, because it's a really fascinating ingredient and I could talk about it for hours, so I won't do that for now. But what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of a guide for another way to taste chocolate. Now, this is a little different from just eating chocolate, gobbling it down and chomping it. That's okay to do that as well sometimes. But what I'm going to lead you through today is a bit of a mini meditation. But as an extra double whammy of wonderfulness is that it's exactly the same way as tasting chocolate professionally. So as well as what I do with my work as a meditation teacher, I do get to judge on chocolate awards, which is amazing. So we will sit and taste about 25 different types of chocolate in one setting, and we will be judging them and tasting them. And we're going to do pretty much exactly the same as what I'm going to do with a little meditation today. So what will you need? First of all, I would like you to have some chocolate. Now, given that this is just after Easter, you might still have some Easter eggs left. If not, just find any chocolate that you've got around the house. You can do it with milk chocolate, white chocolate, dark chocolate, whatever you prefer. And actually, for this one, if you can do it with some chocolate that you really enjoy, that will be really interesting. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you through each of the senses. Because when we taste, we actually use all of our senses. It's not just about putting something in your mouth and chewing. When we taste, our eyes are involved in our taste, our sense of sound, our smell, even our touch. And then of course there is taste on your tongue too. And one of the reasons I love using taste as a meditation tool is that it is one of the times that you use all your senses, but also a really big part of meditation. And one of the reasons why I love it so much is it's really about building that sense of connection with your awareness, with your body, and just exploring how that is for you. Now, you might like to do this on your own. You could do this with your family. It's a really fun one to do together, because what I'm going to get you to do at the end is, once you've done your tasting, if you're doing it with someone else, you might like to share your experience with them. If you're not, you might like to have a piece of paper and you can write down some things instead. So as I said, all you need is a little bit of chocolate. I got a lovely little Easter egg here. This is using something called Pump Street chocolate, which is the brand that I use in my own chocolate making. I also make a range of hot chocolate products called Calm Cocoa by Meredith. And again, it's all about using these little moments, these little tastes as a way to slow down. And given everything that's going on at the moment, I think it's more important than ever. The other thing that would be really helpful for you to have, and you don't have to have this, is that I have attached a little PDF with the video of one of my mindful tasting cards. So this will obviously be in a PDF form. It's not going to be the hard one. On the back of this, it has the mindful eating meditation that we're going to do, so you can try that again. And on the front, this is what might be quite useful to refer to. These are just some of the tastes and flavours that you might get from your chocolate. Now, chocolate is a really fascinating ingredient when it comes to flavour. It's one of the most complex foods that you can taste. It has over 400 different types of flavours that you could taste. So this is obviously not in one single chocolate. You're not going to taste all 400. But there's lots and lots of different tastes and flavours that should be coming through for you. But there's no right or wrong with what you do and don't taste. There's no right or wrong with what you do and don't like as well. So just to say that, this is all about exploring your senses, exploring how the experience is for you, and really starting to connect with the journey of chocolate. And that's really what you're looking for when you taste not just chocolate, but all foods. But because chocolate is such a wonderful, flavoursome food, you're really looking for all the little intricacies And you only really get to those when you slow down. When you're eating really fast, you don't necessarily pay attention to all those tiny little bits and pieces. So this is about going slow. Might feel really slow. That's okay. The very first time I actually did a mindful eating exercise was as part of a day retreat that I did when I was first getting involved in meditation. And we had to eat a whole lunch this way for about 75 minutes. And it was really amazing for me. I thought it would be really slow and a little bit boring, and it was just amazing because I started discovering all these tastes and flavors in this very, very simple food. But I absolutely love chocolate, which is why it's one of my favorite things to do this little mini meditation with. Now, you can of course do this with any food or drink as well, and it might be quite interesting to explore this. So when I do my sessions in person, so normally a lot of the sessions that I run as a meditation teacher involve chocolate, and I will tend to bring along a selection of different types of mostly dark chocolate, and we will sit and taste them next to each other so that you can compare the experiences of each one of those. So if you'd like to try this again, you might actually want to try this with a couple of different types of chocolate and just see what it's like for you. It's actually also really interesting to taste the same chocolate at different times because you'll get different flavors and tastes depending on what else you've eaten that day, the mood you're in, how warm the temperature is, if it's a hot day or a cold day. I mean, there's so many different things that will play into how you taste. In fact, even the music and the noise in the room will affect how you taste. So it's really not a simple thing. This thing that we do every single day, so often without thinking, actually is a pretty complex process. The other thing that would be useful for you to have, so you've got your chocolate. This you can either have a look on your screen to the side while you're doing this or afterwards, or you can print it out if you've got a printer at home. I would also suggest having a little bit of water close by, especially with the tasting. Sometimes you might need to just refresh yourself a little bit. So just to explain a little bit about meditation before we go as well. So meditation can be confusing sometimes because actually meditation is a whole series of different exercises that you could be doing. But actually what all the different types of meditation tend to be doing is help you to slow down, be more focused, connect with the different senses in your body. So touch, looking, smell, all those sorts of things. How your body feels, but also how your mind feels as well. So there's lots of different exercises that you can do around meditation. Some have music, some don't. Some like this are going to involve something to taste. Sometimes you can even do meditations moving. So really the whole process is about building that sense of connection, and actually ultimately not just about connecting with yourself, but connecting with the whole community of other people around you, of living creatures, living beings. So it's not just a solitary exercise, but actually if it's just a solitary exercise for you to start with, that is absolutely fine. And you don't need to sit for long, long periods of time, especially when you're starting out. Sometimes even just doing 30 seconds or 1 minute is a really great way to start. But I know you're really wanting to taste your chocolate. So in fact, you might even notice, and this happens to me just talking about chocolate, I'm already starting to salivate, so I've got saliva in my mouth. So this is actually a really important part of your digestion. Your digestive juices can already start flowing before you start eating, and this actually really helps with your digestion of food. So even apart from meditation, it's actually really valuable to just slow down a little bit when you're tasting. So if you can be somewhere relatively quiet, that's great. If it's not totally quiet, that's fine. You don't need to be sitting somewhere completely quiet. I would suggest doing this sitting up. You can sometimes do meditations lying down, but as you can probably tell, that might be a little bit tricky with tasting chocolate. So get yourself somewhere comfortable, maybe a table, or if you can have your chocolate on a plate, just somewhere that you can get to it easily, and you don't have to be, if you don't have to hold it in your hand, that's best, especially because you may also notice, especially because it is quite warm at the moment, that your chocolate will actually start to melt when you touch it if you keep it on your hand. So I would get yourself somewhere relatively comfortable, relatively quiet, have your chocolate ready to go. And we're just going to, you can either have a few squares of chocolate, you can have a bit of an Easter egg. Now, if you don't finish it all while we do the meditation or the tasting, That's fine. You can come back to it. So one of the other things with mindful eating is also that you can stop at any point that you would like to. So if you feel like you want to take a little pause, you just do that. Just listen to yourself. But this is all about going slow. Okay, are you ready to give it a go? I'm going to get you to start, and unlike other meditations, we will actually do this with your eyes open to start with. It's a little tasting because I am going to get you to look at your chocolate. But before we go into the tasting, I'd like you to get yourself comfortable, and I'd like you to just take 2 or 3 breaths, just breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Just breathing easily in through your nose and out through your mouth. And one more, in through your nose and out through your mouth. Okay, that's already starting to get you into what's called your rest and digest state, and that's the opposite of what our fight or flight state is. So even just that little bit of breathing can help to start you feel a bit more calm, but it also helps with those digestive juices to start them flowing. Okay, so to start with, you can either have your egg unwrapped and you can start to unwrap it. I would actually say have it unwrapped first rather than having it wrapped. Sorry, which is what I should have said, not unwrapped. You knew what I meant. So I would unwrap your Easter egg first of all, or your mini egg. If you've got a mini egg, just have it sitting in front of you. But if you've got some wrapping on it, I just unwrap it like that. So it's sitting in front of you, and pop it on the plate or on a table. And this is when we're going to start the tasting. So first of all, I'd like you to look at that chocolate in front of you. What do you see? What colours are there? Maybe the shape of your Easter egg. You can maybe see the edges, the different shades of brown, or if it's white chocolate, you might see speckles in it. Maybe you've got a mix of different chocolates in there. So just really taking the time to start by just looking. Is it shiny? Is it dull? Can you see little marks? Maybe you even look if you've got some foil paper around it, at the different shapes that you can see. Now this is the kind of thing when you're rushing around, you don't always stop and look at your food, but we really do eat with our eyes. And in fact, our sight is our fastest sense to process, which is why it's actually really important to stop and look. So just continuing to look at your chocolate. And again, doing this in silence for as much as you can. Just looking. What do you see? Do you start to see new details the longer that you look at it? Or is it one thing that you're really focusing on? Just looking at that chocolate, that little Easter egg in front of you. Next, I'm going to get you to connect with your sense of touch. So at this point, you can either pick up your Easter egg or your chocolate, maybe start feeling it with your fingers. You might even like to just keep it on the plate and just touch it that way. Now you might notice that it starts to melt on your fingers, especially if it's warm. If you can, trying not to lick your fingers, I know that's really hard. Maybe just rubbing them together and really enjoying that feeling of the chocolate on your fingers and the cocoa butter, which is a lovely part of the chocolate. So again, just touching that chocolate, and how does it feel? Is it smooth? Is it rough? Do you discover little edges on it? Maybe you've got shapes, or there's a special mould that has left some marks in it. So again, just really enjoying that touch. You might like to move it around. You might like to lift it up. Maybe if your hand isn't too warm, rolling it around your palm. But again, just really noticing how that chocolate feels. Just really enjoying that sense of touch. Because there's actually many hands that have been involved in getting this chocolate to you, from the cocoa farmers who grew the cocoa and cut the pods from the trees, who took the seeds that turn them into beans and place them in piles to ferment, which brings all the flavours out in big piles before laying them out to dry in the sunshine, then putting them into big bags to send to the chocolate makers who sorted through those bags of beans, who roasted the beans, who cracked them, who ground them and made them into this delicious chocolate. And then into your hands. So there's many, many hands that have been involved in this just simple piece of chocolate that you've got in front of you. So maybe even thinking about those different hands before this became part of your chocolate collection and in your hand. And next, I'm going to get you to listen to your chocolate. Don't worry, it's not going to speak to you. But you might want to do this two ways, depending on how big your Easter egg is. I'm going to crack mine first, but I'd like you, if you've got a piece of chocolate, just bringing it up to your ear and cracking it. I'm going to crack mine first on my plate. Oh, mine's exploded into little pieces. So maybe doing that first and then lifting it to your ear and listening to the lovely little snap. Did you hear that? This is again why it's useful to have a plate in front of you. I now have chocolate crumbs all over mine. That's the lovely snap of the chocolate. And we're getting close to the taste, but not quite yet. So I'd like you to take just a small piece of that chocolate, not a big bit yet, and I'd like you to lift it to your nose. And I'd like you to breathe in, maybe taking some short breaths or some long breaths. Maybe moving it between your nostrils. What can you smell? Maybe you smell chocolate. That is something that you could smell. Maybe you smell flowers or nuts or fruit. Or maybe you smell in colour. Some people smell colour. Maybe it reminds you of something. Maybe of a happy time with your family or last Easter. All of our memory is really connected to our smell. So this is, again, so many things that can come from just that simple act of smelling. I sometimes also like to imagine all those chocolatey aromas floating down into my body, and you might like to move to get those in there. Just moving into your body and getting into any bits of your body that you feel need a little bit of chocolate love. We are getting close to the tasting. So the final step, now that you have looked at your chocolate, you have touched your chocolate, you have listened to your chocolate, you've smelled your chocolate. I'm going to finally get you to pop it in your mouth, but rather than chewing, I'd like to start to move it around your mouth with your tongue, with your mouth closed, so that the chocolate starts to melt. I'd like you to start to move it around your tongue, maybe your teeth, your cheeks. And there's all sorts of different things you can start paying attention to here. There's another form of touch, which is mouth feel. Is your chocolate creamy? Is it drying in your mouth? Is it a bit gritty and grainy? There's also another form of smell. As your chocolate melts, it starts to release all the aromas in your mouth. As you breathe out, those are pushed up the back of your nose to your olfactory bulb. And there's also taste. The sense of taste, which is what you taste on your tongue with your taste buds. Is it sweet? Is it salty? Is it bitter, sour? Or that wonderful Japanese word, umami, the lovely savouriness you sometimes get with soy sauce or Parmesan cheese. So really slowly tasting that chocolate and then letting it slip down your throat. And rather than rushing on to the next mouthful, I'd like you to just pause and stop. You might like to close your eyes at this point if that feels nice. And just notice how you feel. Notice what you can taste in your mouth. Maybe you feel really still and calm. Maybe you want to keep rushing to the next mouthful. Maybe you just feel, it's Monday. it doesn't matter. This is not about judging. This is just about noticing, just observing. As I said at the beginning, this is all about building that sense of connection and awareness. Now you can, at your own pace, keep tasting your chocolate really slowly. You might like to, for each piece, just have a little look, maybe touch. Maybe if it's big enough to snap, you could listen. It might be a bit more tricky, but remembering to smell. And then finally popping it in your mouth. And with each mouthful, noticing how the flavours maybe change or stay the same. Maybe a different flavour stands out. Maybe you taste fruit instead of nuts, or it starts to taste more creamy the more that you taste your chocolate. Maybe memories, as I said, memory is a big part of our taste. Maybe memories start coming back to you. Maybe you enjoy it more or you enjoy it less with each mouthful. Maybe it tastes exactly the same. And so just really continuing to taste in your own time, very slowly, pausing between each mouthful, and at any point if you feel like you need some water, just taking a little sip. Maybe you even see colours when you taste. I have a friend who tastes in colours, so instead of being able to taste a banana flavouring a chocolate, she would taste that as yellow. So again, there's lots of different ways to do this. But again, just for the next minute or so, just really slowly working through small pieces of chocolate, just enjoying that touch, that look, the smell. Oh, that makes me happy. And then very, very slowly tasting. Remembering, at the end of each mouthful, just to stop, just to pause for a little or a long while. If you'd like to make this a really long meditation, you can actually extend it. And it's really amazing for me in the chocolate that I'm tasting. It started tasting sweet at first, then got a little bit of bitterness, and then came sweet again. It's very creamy in my mouth, and actually my mouth feels quite creamy afterwards. I'm also getting lots of raisin flavours in the chocolate that I'm tasting, and it's dark chocolate, so I'm getting a little bit more bitterness than if I was having milk chocolate. But again, there's no right or wrong in what you do and don't taste. So I'd like you now, just for the moment, just to take one final piece of chocolate and really slowly, if you've got some left that is, if you haven't, just sitting for another moment or two. So taking that last piece of chocolate, tasting it really slowly. Really letting it melt to get all those flavours out. And when you finish that last piece of chocolate, I'd like you to either close your eyes or just look down in front of you if that feels easier. And I'd just like you to run your attention down from your head, your shoulders, your body, your arms, all the way down your legs to your feet. And just noticing how you feel. Before taking one long last chocolatey breath all the way down into your belly, really letting your belly expand, and then breathing out through your mouth. There you go. So you have just completed a mindful eating meditation with some chocolate. What I would really love for you to do, when I'm in my live sessions, I normally have a discussion with people, but if you're with someone, it would be great for you, and make sure you give each person a turn just to share a few things that you thought about that chocolate. Maybe it made you feel happy, maybe it made you want to eat really fast, maybe you tasted particular flavours, maybe it just tasted like chocolate, Maybe it's a chocolate that you eat all the time and there was something in it that surprised you. Or as I say, memory is another really big thing. Maybe it reminded you of a school holiday or a really good friend who you first tasted that chocolate with. So spend a little bit of time, and you don't need to think too deeply about this. And I always say at the end of these sessions, don't feel like you have to share, but it's quite nice to practice putting into words some of the things that either the chocolate made you feel or some tastes that you learned to taste in it. And actually, what you'll find, the more that you taste and the more chocolate you taste, you do start to taste different things in it. Sometimes it's really easy to work out what it is that you've tasted in a chocolate. Other times it just takes a little bit of tasting. Sometimes you also need to taste a chocolate a few different times to work out whether you actually like it or not. I've certainly had chocolate that I haven't liked the first time I've tasted it. I've tried it again and thought it was very, very delicious. And I always suggest really looking around for different types of chocolate, exploring different flavours and tastes. Sometimes you can learn to taste slightly more bitter chocolate over time, but it's also fine if you decide you want to stick with milk chocolate or white chocolate if that's what you really love. So as I say, this is great to start with something that you really enjoy first of all. So you might like to go back and have a look at the flavour wheel if you haven't already, and have a look at some of the words that are on here. You might see delicate or bright or sweet or nutty, and then some very specific flavours on there. So that can help to guide you. So there are lots of different ways that you can do this, but as I say, it's a really lovely way to just slow down and to take a little bit of time to taste. Now the other amazing thing is, as I said at the beginning, you've now learned to taste chocolate like the professionals, so you can wow your friends with your knowledge. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was a little bit different from maybe something you've tried before as well. If you'd like to find out more about what I'm doing, you can find me over at Meredith at foodatheart.co.uk is my email address. You can also go to my website, which is foodatheart.co.uk. That has all my events. Of course, at the moment, I'm not running any in-person events, but I am running free lunchtime meditations every day during the week. And you can also find my hot chocolate over at calmcocoa.co.uk. And that's the lovely blends that I make using some of the chocolate that I've tasted today, actually. And if you'd like to know more about meditation, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. I also do bespoke sessions for people either one-to-one or as groups. So if you'd like to know more, I'm really happy to answer any questions you might have at all. And of course, if you ever want to know anything about chocolate, I'm very, very happy to answer. So I really hope you enjoyed today's session, and I know COFIGHT have got lots of amazing things coming up over the next week as well, so there'll be lots of things for you to dip into. But as I say, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to send me an email at meredith@foodatheart.co.uk, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Easter Monday. See you later.